One word that allows anyone to earn an income from real estate investment, whether it is for a short period or for the rest of their lives, is what I call equity. Hold on, I'll explain exactly what this means to you. You see, in simple words, equity is the amount of ownership a person has in a company or in an investment. For instance, you could say Tony Lumelu owns 60% in UBA, or I own 50% in Symbolic. But then let me give you an exact example, a more simple example. You see, two friends, Obi and Osas, decide to do a business that involves buying yams from Benue State, transporting them to Lagos and selling them at a higher price. Let's say the total capital needed to run this business is 250,000 naira, and each of them is meant to contribute a particular amount, of money so that they can start the business. Now, if Obi says I have 100,000 naira to contribute and Osas says I have 150,000 naira to contribute, it will be unfair for them to share the returns equally when they eventually sell the yams and make profits. So what do they do instead? They share the returns according to the amount that each person contributed, right? So after selling the yams, Obi would get 40% of the profits because he contributed 40% of the capital, while Osas will get 60% of the profit because he contributed 60% of the capital. This is what we call equity. So Obi had 40% equity in the business while Osas had 60% equity. Now let's bring it to real estate. The only way anyone can earn good income from real estate investments without spending so much on buying land or building a house or saving up for years to own an apartment is by owning equity. And in a few minutes, I'll show you how equity can help you earn both short-term returns and long-term passive income from real estate. But first, you need to understand that equity can allow you invest in real estate markets that will ordinarily take you years of hard work to invest in. I mean, you can basically, not have the kind of money to own apartments in Ikoyi, but because of the equity concept, you can own shares, you can own equity in apartments in Ikoyi and earn rents from that location. You see, equity can allow you to own real estate in neighborhoods that you only wished you could invest in, and that's the power of equity. With equity, you can own real estate in countries you don't live in. You can own real estate in foreign currency, and thanks to technology, you don't even have to visit any of these properties or even see them at all. Equity allows you to own multiple real estate investments without breaking the bank. All you need is a good strategy, and the best part is you can transfer your equity in real estate investments to your children or to your next of kin. Now let me explain how you can own equity in real estate in two simple ways. So the first one is co-investing. You see, this method of investing allows you to own equity in a real estate project over a short period of time, and you can use this strategy in two different ways. First, you can co-invest in the development of new projects. So it involves investing in a project before the project begins, and then when it is sold, you earn returns. So for instance, let's say it costs 65 million naira to build a 4-bedroom duplex. I mean, I know it's 65 million naira is too much, but let's take that for example. So 65 million naira to build a 4-bedroom duplex, and after construction it's sold for say 90 million naira. Now this means that the profit from this project is 25 million naira, which is about 38%. Now if you decide to invest in the construction of this property, when the property is sold, you would earn 38% of what you invested. So let's say you invested 1 million naira in the project, and when the building is sold, you will earn 38%, of your money as profit, which is about 380,000 naira in addition to the money you invested. So you'll be getting 1.38 million naira. That's 1,380,000 naira upon completion of the project. Now, someone else who invested 5 million naira in the same project would also earn 38% returns, but his 38% will be 1.9 million naira, and that is because he has more equity than you in the projects. I hope you get the idea now. So the more equity you hold in a property, the more money you can make from that property. It's that simple. Now, the second way to own equity and earn returns is to co-invest in a cash flowing property. So we are still talking about co-investing, right? Now, If you invest in a cash flowing property, you can earn a part of the rent generated from this property. Now, let me explain this using one of the investment properties we have in Lagos right now. So we have a property, a 2-bedroom apartment somewhere in Lekki, and after furnishing the property and all that, we decided to put the property on the short-let market because of the high rental income, that short-let gives. Now, let us say you decided to partner with us on this project and you decide to contribute 5% of the total costs of setting up the entire project. Now, every year, when we collect rent from this property, we will pay you 5% of the profits after taking out the cost of managing the property and marketing and all that. Now, this way, you do not have to own the property, you do not have to lease the property, you do not even have to manage the property. You just have to invest in it. And because you own equity in that property, a part of the rent that comes from the property goes to you for the entire period that property is on the short-let market. So let's say we lease the property for 10 years. For the next 10 years, you are going to be earning rent, from that property. It's that simple. Now let's assume that we're constructing this same cash flow property from scratch, and we invite you to partner with us on this project, on the development of this property. You can decide to partner in 2 ways. You can co-invest, which allows you invest in the development of the project, and then sometime later, say in 1 year, when we are done constructing, you can cash out by selling your equity in the property to another person who owns equity in that property. For instance, let's say you own 5% of the property. You invested into the property 5%, you own 5%, and then you don't want to hold that 5% for the rest of your life. You can say, okay, the property is done, the value of my 5% was 1 million naira, but when you finish constructing, the value of my 5% is now worth maybe 1.3 million naira, 1.4 million naira. You can now sell that your equity to someone else who will buy it for 1.3 million naira and then own that equity for life. So this way you earn your returns after a short period, quick, right? Now, what if you decide that you do not want to sell that your equity, you want to own equity in this property and earn rent for life? That would bring us to the second strategy that I'll be talking about in this video, and it is called co-ownership. Now, unlike co-investing, co-ownership is a long-term strategy. In fact, it's a strategy that actually gives you passive income for life, or at least for as long as you want to hold that investment. So, what co-ownership does is that it allows you to build your own real estate portfolio, one property at a time, starting with what you have, without waiting for years, to be able to afford investing in real estate. Now, let me explain how it works. So let's say a 2-bedroom apartment in Lekki sells for 50 million naira, and then we divide this 50 million naira into 100 shares, right? Or into 100 units. Let me use units. It means that 1 unit of that apartment is worth 500,000 naira. Now let's assume that you decide to purchase 5 units of that apartment, or 5 shares, if you may, of that apartment. That means that your total investment in that apartment is now 2.5 million naira. 2.5 million naira is what you have. 50 million naira is the worth of the property. 2.5 million naira out of 50 million naira is 5%. That means you own 5% of that entire apartment. Now, what this means is that whenever the apartment receives rent, 5% of the entire amount goes to you. The best part is when the apartment increases in value. Let's say the apartment is now worth 70 million naira. You still own 5% of that apartment. So let's say you decide, we decide to sell the apartment for 70 million naira. 5% of the total proceeds now goes to you. So you don't just get rent, which is cash flow or rental income. You also get capital gains from this strategy. Now, co-ownership can give you passive income for the rest of your life. And it is the simplest way anyone can own real estate and earn rent like the rich without waiting years to buy a whole property. No long stories. You see, now there are different ways for you to start investing in real estate using the equity strategy. First, you can decide to bring your friends together and form an investment club that will make this happen for you. I mean, if everyone contributes for a while, you all can own properties, buy properties, and then, use this strategy. And there are lots of legal and tax, consequences to that. But if you can do that, fine. Now, the second option is to join the waiting list below, and then we'll give you information on the tech product that we're currently building that allows people own equity in real estate and earn returns, just like I've said. All right, guys, join the waiting list below.